Yeah, you can be my baby. It don't matter if you're black or white. What's up, everyone? It's Adventurous After Dark.
Yeah.
A hell of a show for you tonight. To fight off the Hodge twins thing. Just a smidge.
And we have another person.
We have another person. We have John Wells III, correct?
Yeah, John Wells III. That's me.
John Wells III. He is an award-winning fantasy author. He's here to talk about his book and his journey as a writer. That's going to be at the end of the show. We got a bunch of stuff in between here and there. We got Prose Police. We got a segment where we're going to talk a little bit about sports.
Yes.
So expect some stuff about that.
That should be fun.
We're going to talk poetry. We're going to talk about how you would describe things, and we're going to spit some bars. But first, Caitlin, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm alive. I need some TP for my bug hole, but other than that, pretty good.
Oh, yes, that's right, because he is indeed the great Cornholio.
Cornholio. I swear to God, I'm a mature person.
How
Mature's
are you,
overrated.
John? Oh, exactly.
I'm doing well. It was a nice Saturday, so
that's good.
Rested up.
And one of our most frequent flyers, Lauren, says, "Welcome, John. We appreciate the opening arms from our fellow adventurer author, Lauren Adele."
Thank you, Lauren.
All righty. So, as I said,
yes, serious writer.
So serious, you guys.
So serious.
So, we're going to be talking about John's book, The Last Angel Warrior. Me and Caitlin have both read this book. I can tell you, I think it's a pretty good read. I think it's worth checking out. And we are going to get into, getting into the nitty gritty of it. So without further ado, let's talk about it.
Bad prose, what you gonna do when the Prose Police are coming for you? Bad prose.
Alrighty. So, John, you may remember I asked if there was any specific section you were thinking about doing.
Yes. You know what? I would go ahead and just take it from the top.
Take it from the top?
Yeah.
Alrighty, so be it. Let's get into it then. Alrighty, so here we see a standard copyright page. No part of this publication may be reproduced. Very standard, good stuff. Stored or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, copy, photocopy, recording, scanning, or otherwise without written permission from the publisher. Yep, makes sense. Good to go.
How's my prose on that?
That was solid legal prose, and I think that about does it for the segment tonight.
Bad prose.
Okay. I keyed. Okay. Alrighty.
Or we could do the content section. I'm just kidding.
All right. So A Blind Date with the Shadow Man, Chapter 1 of The Last Angel Warrior. And just so anyone watching tonight knows, you can find John reading his entire first chapter here on the channel. We posted that earlier in the week. It's a pretty good reading. So
amazing.
check that out if you want to hear more of the book after this. And that's going to be up in perpetuity, not coming down or anything.
Yeah.
The first time I saw him was on the last day of summer at the Georgia Peach Diner, where I worked. It was a relatively slow shift, mostly moms dragging their kids off to the mall for last-minute back-to-school shopping. I was putting in yet another order for a hamburger with ketchup when my best friend, Tristan, beelined towards me, bumping into tables and knocking over condiments as he ran. "Caleb, that's him," he said, his mouth to my ear as his hand clasped to my shoulder. "That's the man who moved into the old Vic this summer." Tristan's red hair and pale face matched the red and white uniform we were forced to wear at work. All right, we'll stop there and begin. So, any thoughts, Caitlin?
Well, I was going to say what I was thinking when I first started reading it. I felt like it immediately established the strength of the character voice, because this being written in first person, that's very important to do. And it definitely came across like a 15 or 16-year-old boy who was maybe a little bit more mature
Mm-hmm.
than most. So I could definitely kind of get that he had a handle on his thoughts. And
Right. That is something I can't really get it from just that segment, but I will say that as you read the book in its entirety, you definitely get the feeling that it's being written in voice and that we're being told this story by a competent, articulate teenager, which I think is one of the most important things to do when you're writing first person, is to make your narrator intelligent and articulate, because no one wants to listen to a slack-jawed idiot tell a story.
Right.
YA fiction, it sounds like the average teen is telling it to you, and that's why it sucks.
Yeah.
So this is a marked improvement over that, I do agree, because even though the language is definitely, high school, it's still not inarticulate.
Yeah.
It's properly punctuated. There's a good grasp of syntax and flow. The pacing of the sentences is good. And again, there is just enough of a taste of voice that, just from what I've read so far, I get the idea that I want to keep reading because I'm going to keep getting more character voice. And I gotta say that I think, as far as YA fiction goes, the first line, the hook line, is pretty good. The first time I saw him was on the last day of summer at the Georgia Peach Diner where I worked. So because this is written in past tense, and we hear that the first time I saw him, that immediately sets us up with a question, which is very good standard practice. And then we get at the end of the sentence where I worked. So now we have another question. So who is this guy that this is the first time he's seen him, and why is it where I worked? What happens to his job? So that's two questions in the first sentence. And because, again, the rest of the paragraph after that is articulate and well structured, we don't lose interest. So solid.
Plus, I like the fact that with that first line, it automatically establishes the entire aesthetic and setting of what we're looking at
really
and where we are.
Line, just the words Georgia Peach Diner, you instantly get an idea.
And that, that you mentioned, it's summer.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
so
you're right.
Automatically get, hey,
you're right.
this is where we are. This is the kind of lighting and everything that we're seeing right now.
Now, and moving down, I like that in such a short period of time. So And really quick, here's a good example of how to fit characterization into very short quips. So I was putting in yet another order for a hamburger with ketchup. So that's a sign. That's just the barest hint of character frustration, and
Mhm.
the character being like, "What the fuck is wrong with these kids?" kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a little bit of personality. That's just an example of the subtle things you can do in your prose to establish character voice. But moving on to what I was going to say about
Mhm.
Tristan. Tristan beelined toward me, bumping into tables and knocking over condiments as he ran. So we get that this Tristan person isn't graceful, isn't careful, and then Caleb, that's him. Um, you know, all conspiratorial up close to his friend. That's the man who moved into the old Vic this summer. So we get the idea that this guy is a clumsy teenage boy who likes
Mhm.
to gossip, and he's kind of one of these shifty conspiratorial types. All in, this has got to be like roughly 20 words.
Yeah.
So that's really good, compact characterization. So that's good. All right, we'll move on.
Mhm.
The man was sitting 3 booths back on the other side of the diner, my section. It was rare for someone new to come here unnoticed. Haynesville wasn't a particularly large place. The only wait. So okay, so here's one place where here's a place where we can do a minor critique. This whole sentence right here, it was rare for someone new to come here oh, excuse me. There's a period right there. I'm blind. My bad.
Yeah.
Never mind. I rescinded what I was going to say.
It's okay.
I
It's
missed
all
that
right.
period.
It's coming though. It's coming.
Okay. The only new people that turned up were usually here to visit Raven Tech Labs, the large prosthetics company at the edge of town. Whenever someone new moved in, people talked. So we get the idea that this is kind of the quintessential small town feel, and that does a lot of world building and setup all by itself. Now, I will say, because we don't have a specific time period,
Mhm.
so you assume that this is probably like established in like a current town, but reading throughout the book, you're not really 100% sure of that because there's no like really hard evidence of what time period this is in. And I would have liked to have seen some indication of that in the initial pages.
Mhm.
And right here, um, where he's talking about the people showing up in town and visiting Raven Tech and everything, that would have been a good place to potentially maybe fit in something about what time period we're in if we wanted to absolutely set the time period. Sometimes authors deliberately make the choice to leave the time period ambiguous. And if that's being done deliberately, John, you can answer that.
You want me to answer now, or you want me to wait till the end?
Um,
Whichever one you want, sir.
Yeah, it was deliberate for me
Okay.
to leave out the time period. I didn't want to. Well, yeah, I'll talk later about why it was deliberate and all that stuff. But yeah, it was a deliberate choice for me to
Okay.
leave out the time period.
Okay. I'm interested in hearing the rationale.
yes.
Okay, so Tristan took gossiping about newcomers to a whole new level. He was a class A nutcase. I like that set. It's a short, snappy sentence, and it's just colorful enough to where we get some more character flavor. So I like that. There's a whiff of humor there, so that's good. He always babbled on about conspiracy theories and our imminent doom. The week before, he'd convinced himself the government was tracking everyone through their smartphones. The week before that, it was something about TV and auto suggestions brainwashing us to think what they wanted us to think, which is actually true. This was this was just the latest in a long list of conspiracies. Apparently, the man looked at Tristan funny on the street earlier that day as he'd walked into work. Now he'd be convinced the man was following him. So, other than there being a double space right here, I don't have anything in particular to say about this. This is all, it flows good. It's fairly succinct. There's good character voice. No notes in particular on that section. Caitlin?
And it packs a lot of information into a very short space without making us feel like we're getting info dumped on. So
Yeah.
Kudos, because a lot of people, first book, they can't do that. So
Thank you for that. I couldn't even follow because my eyes was staring at that glaring double space right there.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the book, and don't feel, I'm not going to give you any shit because I've released and sent out, like, I have multiple copies of my book printed right now. I have a box of like 5 over there that I ordered before I found out that my file on Barnes and Nobles was fucked up. And they're packed full of typos because it's not the final edit of the book that I printed. But I suck at clerical matters is the point I'm making here.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you, Caleb, there's something weird about that guy, Tristan said, followed by a quick and painless jab from his elbow. Quit staring, he'll see you. Relax, I sighed, rolling my eyes and reaching for the next order. I've got to give the guy his pie. I was running a little late that day, and someone else had already given the man his coffee. I grabbed a slice of pie from the counter and pushed past my friend, humored by his overreaction. Again, we're getting great characterization. We're fitting a lot of interaction and so this is an important technique comment here. This is something that a lot of authors miss. In this dialogue here, we get an action and a little bit of information about the action. And then, right here, humored by his overreaction, we get a little bit of internal status, internal dialogue, thought, whatever word you want to describe it. It's what's going on in the head of the narrator. Fitting in these little things like humored by his overreaction and getting the descriptions of what's going on in between sections of dialogue, that lets us know what the narrator notices and pays attention to and what they're feeling and thinking. That's how you build really solid, well-rounded character voice, narrator voice in very short periods of time. And it's being consistently done here, at least in what we've seen so far. But I can tell you, having read the whole thing, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah. There was not any strain in the first person character narration. So, yeah.
Up until that point, the day had gone as normally as any. The diner was dotted with the same faces, having the same conversations. We could have maybe had a comma right there at faces to break up that idea. But it's not wrong as it is, but I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like I would put a comma in there. Damien Daslick was slumped over his grilled cheese sandwich at the end of the bar, with his headphones pushed firmly in his ears, and the look of "Don't bother me" practically written on his face. Now, this section here about Damien Daslick is good, and it gives me just enough information to where I might be able to recall the character later. And the "don't bother me" thing is just spicy enough to where basically, this is just enough information to make me aware that this character is going to be important later.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say here.
Plus the whole, mentioning that his earbuds were firmly pushed into his ears. You get the idea that he's one of those guys that's just like, I'm just going to shove these all the way in there because no one in the world but me exists.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you like that. I
Yeah.
wanted to comment on your comma comment earlier.
Yes.
My editor told me your commas are like cockroaches.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a similar what's the word I'm looking for here?
Discussion.
Not discussion, a similar sentiment from my editor.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, Jack, you use twice as many commas as you need. I was like,
Yeah.
no.
You're like,
A lot of dramatic pauses. I took one right there.
Commas.
No.
Commas, and then there's this weird thing, and I don't know where it comes from.
Mhm.
We've decided that my finger is accidentally pushing it, but question marks. Commas and question marks. They appear, and he'll erase the question mark. He'll erase the question mark, and he'll say, "Did you mean to put a question mark there?" It's like, I didn't know it was even there.
That sounds like an issue of your typist habits. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I hate to break it to you live, but you missed one when you were edited. There's a sentence that's clearly supposed to end with a period, and it's a question mark.
I have found a few while reading.
I only found one.
Good. I'm glad.
Alrighty. Sarah Withers from school beckoned one of my coworkers to her table with her newly remodeled prosthetic arm, courtesy of Raventech. Mr. and Mrs. Abernathy sat at a booth in the back corner by the window, looking out and bickering about the weather as usual. Mr. Jones, the CEO of Raventech, sat opposite the Abernathys with his daughter, Kalia?
Kalia.
Kalia, okay. With his daughter, Kalia. Moving on. on their weekly outing. And then there was the stranger. I suddenly realized he'd had his eyes glued on me as I made my way across the diner. "Your pie, sir," I said, presenting the plate. That's when things got weird. "Thank you, Khalib." Oh my God. See, and now I do an accent and I fuck myself up. "Thank you, Khalib," he replied as the edges of his lips curled. His smile was forced and unnatural. I looked down at my chest to see if I was wearing a name tag. I wasn't. "How'd you know my name?" "You're Mayor Donovan's kid," he feigned nonchalance as he pried the plate from my hands. I've seen you in pictures. You don't move into a new town without doing your research." He picked up his fork, cutting into the flaky crust of the peach pie. Caitlin, any thoughts?
I really like, and I know this is kind of a minor detail, but minor details are my jam. So, the paragraph where you were talking about Sarah Withers, I liked how you established basically what kind of a place Raventech was by using that, because having mentioned Raventech Labs previously, it planted a question of, okay, well, obviously this is going to be important later, so what specifically do they do? So I thought that was a very good minor detail to add in.
Thank you.
And something else that merits mention about this short paragraph right here.
Mhm.
We see the line, courtesy of Raventech. That's the end of the paragraph. And that leaves us with a very slight flavor of corporate benevolence, which is wonderful misdirection for later in the story.
Yes.
So that's a very... Yep. Solid place there. And then there was a stranger. And that's a beautiful point to make is we establish misdirection that sets up a plot twist later in the story in 2 words and a name. It's not hard, folks.
Nope.
Start foreshadowing. Your books will be 10 times better.
about the names Caleb and Kalia, the way that you pronounced it makes sense to me.
Caleb? Yeah.
Caleb,
Caitlin was pointing that out to me. That it was phonetic. That's how it would be.
Phonetically, it's Caleb, and it can be spelled Caleb. Now, it is spelled the way that it's spelled based off of just African American culture, but even African Americans don't get it right, so it's fine. But with Kalia specifically, you said Kalia, and for me, Kalia makes sense, but I've heard some gross mispronunciations of that name, and I'm like, but I don't understand how you got that from there. But Kalia makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm a hooked on phonics kid, and I have a fairly good understanding of a lot of etymology and a lot of how the language a word roots from changes the rules of its enunciation. But I couldn't read until I was 9, so sometimes I still fuck something up.
I was a hooked on phonics kid too. It's okay.
Plus, with the changing of the spelling, instead of it being standard Caleb, it changes the meaning.
That's true.
Of the name.
I love that. I would love to know. I would love to hear more about that.
Well, because Caleb, Caleb, in Hebrew means dog. And to change the spelling to Kalib, still Hebrew origin, means wholeheartedly or with one's whole heart.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And by that sheer stroke of coincidence, the character's name spelling was changed much more to be in line with his character. Serendipitous or destiny? Alrighty. Cutting into the flaky crust of the peach pie. Yeah, I muttered, ignoring the growing knot in my stomach. So here, with that addition of that line, I do want to point out too, we have a very good job of setting the uncomfortableness of this scene from beginning all the way up until where we currently are. Like the thing about the patron yanking the plate out of his hand. And the thing about him giving Caleb a strange look as he brought his food over. And then just every time there's room for, like right here, his lips curled, his smile was forced and unnatural. At every turn, the author has managed to fit in a quick line, a quick snippet of some of the surrounding details that give us a better picture of the mood and feeling of the scene. It's very well done. You're Mayor Donovan's kid. He feigned Caleb Donovan, right? The stranger spoke as if he'd just remembered my name. But even this sounded well rehearsed. The fork scraped across the plate, which gives me goosebumps. You bastard! How dare you write? Just as a side note.
Oh, it's like, but see, look, this is how we turn up tension, though. It's like, see, if you didn't think this was anxiety inducing enough, we're gonna introduce this sound that's like scraping nails on a chalkboard.
Not.
Except it's worse.
It is horrible. That's a horrible sound.
Yes.
It legitimately hurts my ears.
Oh,
Which actually hurts.
Oh man.
Andrews, actually, I corrected. I go by Caleb Andrews. Oh, the man bobbed his head up and down. That's right, you're adopted. I think I read that somewhere. Well, it's very nice to meet you, Caleb. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was too dry to allow it. So dry. Allow it. Research, he said. More like stalking. Who is this man? I mean, sure, a person would have to be blind not to know I didn't look like Donald and Susan Dullivan. Anyone with eyes could see I was adopted. I just wasn't, it wasn't just my appearance either. Aside from the contrast of my bright blue eyes, curly brown hair, and mocha-colored skin, with their straight hair and slightly pink complexion, I had simply never felt like their son. I suppose that's why I never called them mom or dad. It had never felt right. Okay, so this paragraph right here, this is relevant to the discussion we're having at the end of the show. And it's also, this paragraph, when I was reading, I had a discussion about Caitlin entirely because of this paragraph, and most specifically because of this line right here, mocha-colored skin. John, I am sure you have heard the piece of advice thrown around that you should not describe ethnic characters' skin tones by food comparisons, but you've done it here. I want to hear your thoughts on that whole issue in writing.
The funny thing is that that problem came up more recently, and once it came up, I was like, well, I've already done that. I was like, it has never really bothered me. I understand what the issue is. I understand they have made some very legitimate points. Mm-hmm. And I stand for being progressive. I stand for all that stuff. However, there are so many other things that we can build our fort on. There are so many other things that we can be fighting for. We don't need to be a social justice warrior for everything. Right. And I will probably people will probably get mad at me for saying that. But I don't think that's the way that I would describe his skin. Right. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but I would just as quickly describe someone with peach skin or someone with, milk-colored skin. So, the hint of strawberry on their cheeks. I would just as easily do that. So,
right, yeah. And as a white person, I wouldn't have the slightest problem at all.
Yeah.
And I think the entire issue of, like you said, being so hyper-focused on language when there's obviously no ill intent, it's just a comparison. Mm-hmm. And what is, and truly, tell me what is the root issue here for you? Is it that I'm comparing a person to food? Because generally speaking, humans are really big fans of food, so I'm not really understanding the issue here.
That's honestly probably why I'm fighting for it so much, because I love food. But don't get me wrong, I understand the issue. I understand that African Americans have been objectified.
I understand that there's something to discuss there with the objectification, but I would argue that you find that much more so in other places that the author might write about the character.
Mhm.
Like say if it's a horror author and every book they write, they have a token black guy who dies right away. It's pretty obvious to me that person sees race as a token issue.
Which is going away. But if we even move over to romance,
Thank God.
we even move over to romance. There is definitely an idea of what an African American male is supposed to look like and be like and act like, and there's what a African American woman is supposed to be like, act like, and look like. There's definitely a fetish. Oh my God,
Fetishize. Yeah.
Yes.
Fetishization and when it's not a fetishization, there's a easy stereotype of the inner city black guy that's used a lot. Yeah,
absolutely.
I would agree with all of those things, and it's no secret to anyone who pays attention to my content. I'm not an SJW. I am right of center firmly, but even I can admit that is a problem that exists in literature and in storytelling in general.
And hey,
all of those are more important issues than his skin was the color of mocha.
Yeah, and hey, I mean, for those, I'm a fairly new author. People don't know me too well. I am. I do lean towards the social justice warrior side. However, what we lack in 2022 is balance.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%.
And that's one of the things that I hope we get back to.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? That starts with being allowed to say what you want to say and being allowed to joke about things. That's why free speech is so damn important.
I agree with that 100%.
And see, this whole thing that's happening right now, folks, this is why it's so important to talk to people who you don't see eye to eye on every little thing with, because right now we're finding common ground and I'm having a good time. See, it's not so bad. All right. And then the other thing I noticed about this, and I made a note of this in my reader's notes, was you've made the character black, or at least partially black, but they have blue eyes, as obviously that's you as well. So that, first of all, when I read that, I was like, that's an interesting choice. And then I had like an itch in the back of my brain, and I was like, wait a second. And I went and looked at a picture of you again, and I was like, oh fuck. So it raises the question, did you just want to make a unique appearing black protagonist, give him something that really set him out from being visually standard, we'll say? Or was it that you wanted to kind of self-insert a little bit?
So when I heard the comments about giving black characters colored eyes, I admittedly felt bad about that one. I was like, oh, that one is true. That is, something that is a little bit more sensitive, giving Eurocentric features to African American or African characters as a standard of beauty, which isn't what my intent. However, there's two reasons why I decided to give Caleb blue eyes. The first one is the character that I did base this character off, which actually, ironically, is not me.
Okay.
Was a 16-year-old foster kid who kind of looked like me. He had color. He had the same color skin with blue eyes, very very bright blue eyes. Who kind of had an attitude, and I met him, and I was like, I want to write about you.
Yeah.
So and that's what I did. I wrote about him. The second reason, which I won't say too much, but I did it when I was in the development process, because things changed later on. But I did it for familial ties as well. When I was in the development station, part of this, there were a lot of that, which isn't there anymore. It isn't existent anymore. Where it's like the eyes were important to where you came from. is not as important anymore. It really isn't. I mean, don't go looking through the book and saying, "Oh, they have the same color eyes. They must be related." Because I let go of that.
I mean, you could still have fans who, you know, later on down the road will be like, "Oh, well, this is an Easter egg, so this will be the thing that we latch onto."
Yeah. And I love fiction that takes small details like that into account and small real world facts like that and really works to incorporate them into the story, because you're right. Eye color is a strong marker of family lineage, and I want to circle back to the comment about blue eyes being a Eurocentric beauty standard. I think that how to say this so that I don't step in mud because I didn't say what I wanted to say right.
You can always backtrack. It's fine.
What am I, a politician? No, so okay. The thing about blue eyes being a Eurocentric beauty standard, and therefore it shouldn't be inserted into black or other ethnic characters as a marker of physical appeal and beauty. I find that very interesting because the psychology and science behind color is that humans generally prefer more brightly colored things. And so I really don't think that that's a race issue so much as it is a behavioral science of humans thing. And that's something that I hope the community can come to terms with and get over in the long run. Because while, yes, it's typically Northern Europeans who have bright eyes, that doesn't mean that they're inherently more beautiful because of that. It just means that their eyes are pretty because they're a color that humans recognize at a DNA level as being more beneficial than, say, brown. Brown is the color of dirt and shit. Blue is the color of water and some fruits. And that's written into our DNA. It's no one's fault. That's just how it is. And some people really like brown eyes.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that brown eyes, the issue, and that is a true psychological thing, may have been where it started. However, because of that, there's been some things that have been perpetrated within media, starting way back in the early 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Well, I mean, I guess when colored. Well, no. I mean, I'll take that back. This is what it meant to be beautiful, and all of those things were Eurocentric things. And those who grew up without that, even today, had to. It took a little bit more to be convinced that they were okay.
Right. I understand that concern.
I had a really good conversation with my niece. My niece is 16 now. When she was about 10 or 11, she was watching TV, and you know, one of the things with Black girls is they really struggle with their hair, especially if they grew up in a predominantly white area.
I heard that from one of my Black friends as well.
Yeah. So she was looking at this TV. She was watching Disney Channel. She said, "Oh, I just wish I looked like her." And I paused. I turned off the TV, and I had a long conversation with her. And I said that. Well, actually, I paused it. I said, "That's not real."
Right.
I showed her that. I don't know if you remember that Dove Beauty commercial where they show you everything that they did. Yeah. I showed her that. I showed her that commercial to show her, but then I told her to look at herself. This little girl, she's 16, but she's the most beautiful 16-year-old girl I've known. And since then, she's gotten so much into her agency and so comfortable in who she is.
Good.
It doesn't matter. Like she's never arrogant, but she's so confident. And I'm so proud that she has come from that to where she is today.
Yeah.
Yeah. and that issue that was the root of that anecdote, where people don't have representation in the stories they consume, and so they feel like their culture is leaving them out. Again, I'm not an SJW by any means, but that's a real phenomenon that needs to be given the proper respect.
Yes.
Because as storytellers, we have a responsibility to push forward the best ideas our culture has to offer and to tell stories that unite and bring people together. How can you do that if your story doesn't tell the stories of all the people and properly?
Absolutely.
It's okay if this novel doesn't have this character or this novel doesn't have this character, but across your writing, you should try to bring people together. That's what good storytellers do.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I left, working for people in Trad Pub, because I think it's really cool when you represent characters as having an integrated family, because I come from an integrated family. My brother Joel, he's married to a Black woman, and also my brother Aaron is also married to a Black woman. And I mean, basically my entire family is all colors of the rainbow.
Love it. Pretty
much. And so, and having grown up that way, we didn't really see the world as, any different than this is how things should be. So, working in Trad Pub with all of these people, I would, that would be the idea that I would present, and it would get shot down as, well, this could be taken negatively, so we're going to steer away from that. And so that's another reason why I came out into independent publishing, was because I was like, okay, well, what about all of these people who have, more than one kind of person in their family?
Absolutely. It's.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I don't have anything to say. I'm agreeing. I agree that it's something that's definitely important to have, and part of and the gatekeepers, those people who say, well, that won't work, that will never make money, and they're shooting themselves in the foot right now, because obviously clearly it does work, clearly it does make money. They said that a Black superhero would never make box office sales. Black Panther was was one of the top grossing of his time.
Black Panther was a pretty good movie, and I want my Static Shock movie. Damn it,
it's coming.
Yes.
Really?
I saw something recently, a live action Static Shock.
Oh fuck yeah, dude!
Yes.
I loved that cartoon as a kid. He was always one of my favorite superheroes. I was like,
Static
Shock, light his ass up. Love that dude. Fucking love his fucking attitude. Love his power set.
Yes,
he's just a great character. Dude, I wanted to be Spider-Man. That one was like, that was Spider-Man.
That too. When Miles Morales came out, I was super into that too as well.
Yeah, Miles Morales is a good character. I like him a lot. Okay, so to wrap up, because we're definitely going long for this segment. Just as a last note from me too, about the Black character having blue eyes thing. Our friend John and the boy he based this off of aren't the only ones. It's a somewhat common phenomenon, not super, but somewhat common. I mean, the Hodge twins, they're two personalities here on YouTube, Black guys with blue eyes. And there's been a lot of good, for some reason, National Geographic loves to take pictures of dark-skinned people with blue eyes. It's so many of their issues and covers have that. But yeah, that's my point. So if you want to, it's like my good friend Rush used to say, true diversity includes everyone. What about the people who are Black with blue eyes? So now they have a hero. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Very true.
All righty. So, absolutely. And so, yeah, man, that is Last Angel Warrior by John Wells. Like I said, I read the whole damn thing. I'm probably going to do a review over on my channel. And, yeah, it's worth checking out. The whole thing holds up to about that level, or actually, I'd say a good chunk of it is better once he gets past the having to set everything up stage. We start going a little faster, and it's good. So, anyways, yeah, go check it out. All right, everyone. This has been Prose Police. The verdict? Innocent. Maybe needs to work on punctuation just a smidge.
Well, it was just a
I can't
comma.
sit there. Well, and he admits to the question mark thing later in the book.
Bad prose, what you gonna do when the Prose Police are coming for you? Bad prose, bad prose.
Yeah. All right.
Not be campy and hilarious.
Never. Yes, and even when we get real big, we're still going to keep that stinger.
Yes.
So,
I love it.
we want to do comments.
We can do comments real quick.
Okay. Lauren says, well, if he mentions smartphones, kind of sets it in a modern time period.
That's true. Oh yeah, we can cycle back to that exact thing at the end of the show with We Are Genius. I don't want to get off in the weeds too long. But yeah, that's a good point. It at least makes it within the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
and I use too many commas too. Yes.
It's a common problem. I understand.
Yes, everyone wants to worship at the altar of the Oxford comma. Agree, bring static back, says Nikki.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. Alrighty. So,
Where
to next?
You know that thing where jocks and book and book nerds just don't get along?
Uh-huh.
We're shoved into lockers and we're called nasty things to be used as derogatory slurs. Well, I thought maybe someone should start doing it to them. So here's the thing about basketball. We got a bunch of guys in shorts and tank tops. Sometimes the tank tops go away if we're playing street ball. And they're all fighting over this big ball. And they're trying to gain control of the ball to throw it in the other guy's net. And the entire time, they're rubbing up on each other. They're grabbing at each other, and they're like guarding. And I don't know if you've ever seen a hard guard, but basically one dude is grinding his ass on the other dude's junk, and they're all sweaty, and they're all reaching for the ball. And do I need to go any further here? I think I'm just about clean and cracked the case here, guys. Basketball's kind of gay. And look, if you're homosexual, all the power to you. Go do you, man.
Play basketball.
Let's call a spade here. I don't want to hear these basketball team captains coming up to my people, us book nerds, and being like, y'all are gay. You read fairies and stuff. Bro, you just twerked on your homeboy's ass for 2 hours of practice. Don't fucking tell me I'm gay because I read a book about some dragons and elves. My elves have huge tits and my dragons breathe fire. You were reaching for the other dude's ball 20 minutes ago in the gymnasium. Don't call me gay.
That was before you even reached the court.
Yes!
Facts, John. Oh. Anybody has any thoughts on this one? Yes, Zach, keep going. Don't forget the coach
yelling from the sidelines.
Coaches always yelling about how best to grab the other guy's ball. The whole thing is just reminiscent of some like weirdly themed BDSM dungeon for that caters specifically to gay men.
Don't forget flopping.
Oh yeah.
You know, talking about BDSM. Talk about submissive.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So yeah, that's why basketball is one of the gayest sports that no one calls gay. I love that segment so much.
Yes. And our audience, the couple of times that we haven't had it, has practically thrown a riot.
Right.
Because
I never thought the comments section could make me so scared.
They're like, come on, where's the gayest sport that no one calls gay?
And it breaks my heart because eventually I'm gonna run out, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do because they're gonna come after me.
There's always sports. There's always more material. You can always even circle back and say, actually, I take that back. It's this one again.
You know, I think I might have to take you up on this.
You'd be like, you know what? We forgot.
Yeah.
Here's all of these
I
details.
missed some points the last go around.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've got a few. If you ever need some, I've got
Hey.
some off the top of my head.
Oh,
Yeah.
Feel free to come back on the show sometime, and we can get into it.
Great.
But yeah, so thank you all for being here for that. Now we're gonna move into one of the more serious segments. You know, there's room for poops and giggles in this segment, but it's time to be deliberately over dramatic so that people get the fucking point. Look,
Yeah.
oh, Sergeant!
Whoa.
Yeah.
Girl.
I just want to be a part of the team, guys.
I love that energy, Job. If you get out and kick it up just a notch, this is show business, kid.
Yes, yeah, we have no curb on the enthusiasm around here. So
The only curb around here is the biting curb. You feel me? Come on.
It depends who's biting the curb.
yeah.
Only my enemies. So tonight I'm gonna read something that's actually very out of place so far in the stream, totally against the mood. This is a much more serious piece than what I did last week with my epic comedy poem with my dick out.
Yep.
This is This is Itching the Wound by Zach Pieper. May I pour my pain out to you, thee who reads my words. Will you listen to my soul's cries for a moment, as the digital ink assaults your eyes with my agony, and your heart clenches a little with empathy or pity? Will you look upon me as another lost poet, another aimless child, or will you see me? Will you hear me? And our souls, will they connect over my words? And for just a moment, you will know a small piece of me. And maybe someday you will see that piece of me inside of another. And you will remember my words. And you will act better than you might have. If that were to happen, I would be glad. A shame I will likely never know of it. Sometimes I rake open the wounds on my soul to watch my sanity pour out. And I pour in some salt and cocaine, just to see if I can kill my demons with enough poison. I slam my head against a rock while living in a hard place, because the ringing in my ears drowns out the voices for a moment. But no matter what I do, I always end up back here, right where I am right now, in the dark, in my room, staring at a screen and itching the wound.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's my blood. Enjoy looking at it.
Stop scratching it.
Hey man, I don't know if you've ever known someone with eczema, but it's a son of a bitch to stop scratching. Let me tell you, I don't know if you can see it really good, but frequently, no, you can't really. Oh yeah, you can. You kind of can. That red line right there. That red line right there. That actually will routinely go all the way down until it starts bleeding. Eczema's a son of a bitch.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, Caitlin, you were supposed to have something prepared.
Yes, I do. However, I did want to ask, did our guest bring anything?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Would you like to share it with us?
Sure. You don't want to go first?
Thank you, Lauren.
No, you are a guest, so you go.
All right. Actually, oh, there it is, right here. Okay. This one is called "Why Am I Single?" People ask me why I am single. Like being single was a prerequisite for adulthood. Like somehow my happiness hinges on the pendulum between happy and love and miserable. Like somehow single means lonely and lonely means sad and sad means I'm destined to spend my life alone with 39 cats and a dog. Is that so bad? The truth is, I don't really know how to answer that question. Why am I single? Perhaps it's because I'd rather invest into a career than to answer the questions. Who was that? And where are you going? Perhaps it's because it's more acceptable to be a neurotic, obsessive, insecure actor than it is to be a neurotic, obsessive, insecure boyfriend. Or maybe because I'd rather lay awake at night staring at my phone, wondering if I got the part, than to look at my phone every 3 minutes, wondering if you think about me as much as I think about you. Maybe because I hate feeling like a 13-year-old schoolgirl every time you come into view. Maybe it's because I hate falling in love. I hate the nauseous feeling that I feel when you walk into the room and I can't decide if it's love or indigestion. I hate the way you consume my every thought. I hate the way I look at you. I can't help but stare. But when I try to speak to you, my tongue forgets how to function. I hate that when I say goodbye to you, I feel like I'm crossing an ocean. But when I see you again, I feel like I'm floating away. God, I want to be with you. But trying to hold on to this moment is like a child trying to catch a bubble before it bursts. It's like a dog trying to chase a cat in reverse. It's like a show being performed but not rehearsed. It's backwards. So I sit and I watch from afar. And I focus on my work. And when people ask me, why am I single? I smile. And then I lie. Because the truth is, I'm single because love hurts.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
You know, I gotta say, just about the entire time you're reading that, I'm like, this sounds like a monologue in a play.
Yes.
This sounds
Well, that's great.
But it's so good.
Yep.
And I like the build into that it was actually entirely about how somebody felt about another person.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa, hey. So it was like a whole story.
It's a fun one to write.
Yeah. Well, I could tell because you got really passionate, and I was like, yes, this is that good stuff.
Right.
Oh man. Yep. So I did one, and I'm kind of embarrassed.
No.
It's sort of kind of saucy, so, but yeah. Anyway, all right.
Would it help if you read it like Smeagol?
If I read it like this? Oh no! Well, you know what? I could. I can't guarantee I won't die of laughter, but okay.
Make
You know
it
what?
your decision. It's your decision.
What? Okay. Okay, fine. I'll do it like this. Oh, God. Okay. So, I don't know if I can. Okay. Come, be a man to a woman. Tell me the desires for others who have left unsaid. I lay before you, bury myself wholly, yearning, unafraid. There before many have feared you, scorned you, and fled, breaking your heart and filling you with dread. I don't know if I can do this whole thing with Spiegel. Oh my god. Okay, soldiers. Okay. All right. Come, be a man to this woman, and you will find sanctuary in my bed. Show me your poetry in the way you move within me. Say my name in a voice that means you own me. The space between us ceasing to exist at the command of your grip. You and me becoming we, one. As you waste no time, each seduction beckoning me to succumb. Come, your way. Come, for you. I take you deep within. I, your temptation, you, my ecstasy and sin. I lose myself in the rush of your pounding heart. You consume me in the fire of your sapphire eyes. I quake like the earth around us, as your lips only ignite more the flames within my skin. If this be a dream, no one wake me. At the thought, I am frightened and shed a tear, crying out my prayer for it not to end. You now, my divine, touch your lips to my ear and whisper soothing, love, this is only the start. You have no need to fear. Yeah.
Saucy.
Yeah. Yeah, I write romance, by the way. If you
Love it.
So yeah.
Among other things.
Yeah.
I'm excited for The World Next Door.
The World Next Door. Yes. Yeah, because that's science fiction. But
Science, like, what genre is that? Science fiction.
Yes, it is science fiction, but it's got a very Neil Gaiman sort of twist. So yeah. Like if what if quantum jumping with water actually worked and all of the bad things that could happen if they took it literally?
Literally. Okay. I love it.
So, this has been Rebel Poet Society. If you want to have your stuff read or critiqued during this segment, send it in.
Yes.
The email is in the channel description, adventurouspublications@gmail. This has been Rebel Poet Society.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I love that. I love the '80s vibe I get from that.
Dude,
Yes.
It makes
I
me
was
want
like-
to put on my jean jacket and.
Yeah.
it's like, because I got the rose petals and the flamethrowers, I'm like, this is like if Michael Bay was anime.
Oh.
Alrighty, so we're just going to hop right into the next segment here so we can keep everything rolling.
Oh.
Have you guys ever wondered how writers get their poetic prose and the reasons they describe things the way they do? Well, we have a segment about that.
How would you describe that?
So, in this segment, we ask the audience, or if we have enough people on the call, we could just ask people in the call for a phrase or a thing. You know, something mundane, like a piece of pie or a frog hopping through grass, or, you know, just something regular, everyday stuff.
Mhm.
And then you take that mundane thing and you make it poetic. And then, on the flip side, taking something that's naturally poetic, like watching a flock of birds fly into a sunset, or watching whales hop through their hop. Whales don't hop. You know, do the thing where they come out the water and across the horizon.
Yes.
I like hopping.
And beautiful like that. Mundane.
I think I might call it hopping.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Ooh,
Pumpkin pie. Okay, so
Vegas.
do you want me to make Vegas mundane or poetic? Because there's an argument to be made that it's one or the other.
Yeah. Mm.
And pumpkin pie is obviously something mundane made poetic. So
Mm-hmm.
I can now my question is, John,
Yes.
do you want? I'll do one so you get the idea, and then I'll ask if you want to try one.
All right. All right.
So first, I'll take pumpkin pie. Seems how Nicole's probably typing still. I will take pumpkin pie, perfectly normal daily thing, and make it poetic. As the fluffy orange sweetness sat atop the plate, I could not help but begin to salivate. The flaky crust looked positively divine, and this family recipe, which was now mine, all mine, hadn't been made in almost 10 years, ever since Mom stopped making it. I grab a fork. The whipped cream sits delicately atop. I make the first incision, and when it hits my mouth, nostalgia dances across my tongue. The flavor of the pumpkin pie has won.
Do you know how long I stare at computer screens to get what you just did? What you just pulled out of your butt?
I'm a natural, baby. What can I?
Yeah.
So, okay, so do you want to take a crack at making the mundaneness of Vegas poetic, John?
Yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Lord.
On the road to victory, the lights are like stars in the sky. I think of the The casinos are like the temples where I pray at the altar, and the and the coins that fall from the slots like roses, sweet to my. Yeah, that's it. That's what I got.
You're ahead with that. That was good. Yeah, that was what we got was good. Like a temple, pray at the altar. I like that metaphor. That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, there we go.
You got the idea, kid. Caitlin,
Yeah.
give me something else. Give me something else mundane to make poetic.
Ooh, okay. Trip to the grocery store.
Trip to the What?
You said you like a challenge.
All right. As I walk alongside the woman I love, I look up at her smiling. She looks across the vast, unknown wasteland where other people push around the rickety metal carts. And I know that I am here with her because she needs me. I will defend her. Though she is much bigger than I, and my limbs are short and stubby, she is my mother.
Oh.
And I must protect her at all costs, for I am her strong little man. I'll be so every day, after all. So I will march up and down these unknown aisles, full of strange packages and oddly shaped projectile weapons that he calls soup cans. And I will make my mother proud, because I will protect her during our trip to the mall. Make it harder next time.
I have two thoughts here. My first thought is, I think we've had two very different experiences going grocery shopping with our mothers. My second thought is, I feel like there's a backstory to these soup cans.
To be honest, not really. I just pulled that one out of my ass. I was like, what would an imaginative little kid possibly make the story of going to the grocery store about? Yeah.
Oh man.
Called that one. All right. Cole says death, poetic to mundane, and then we'll wrap up the segment.
Ooh, do we want to give this one to John?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yep.
Okay.
So poetic to mundane. Yeah.
Poetic to mundane.
You can do it. We believe in you.
We believe in you.
Well, my dog became worm food today. He was a good boy. Yeah, that's it.
Well, my dog became. I mean, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So more
mundane.
Slightly more in line with the previous format I've set up. So here's how I would do taking it and doing like a mundane of it.
Okay.
So death. The physiological process by which a living organism ceases to live. In humans, heartbeat cease, pulmonary function ceases, last, all neurological activity ceases, and 5 minutes past the point of initial cessation of all activity, resurrection typically becomes impossible. Death.
Death.
And I said resurrection, not resuscitation. I meant to say resuscitation. So,
but you repeat yourself.
Brain.
Yes.
So yeah, That's generally how you do the.
I understand now.
Yeah, the death is obviously something that's heavily poetic, but you can describe it in very clinical terms. The first one of these I ever did, I described a waterfall in clinical terms. Caitlin was dying.
It was amazing. And then he described a heart transplant like you would a waterfall.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that's over on Caitlin's channel if you want to dig through the old episodes of We Are
have
Indeed.
to dig through that.
Yeah, that is hilarious. We were like, wait, who even does this? And he did it just like right on the spot. So yeah, we were like, we need to make this a thing.
That's great.
I am but a humble jester. So, anyways, that is how I would describe that.
How would you describe that?
Alrighty. So, I'm really happy to bring this segment back for its second go around because y'all know I love spitting bars. It's time for the second rap review of the show.
Yeah, mic check 1 2. What it be, what it is, what it do. It's time for another rap review.
All right, everyone. So you were probably here because if you watch the show, you're one of the regulars. You were probably here for the first rap review, which was of Aragon. And that one was okay, but it wasn't nearly as reviewy as I was hoping to make these. So I really sat down and put some serious effort into these bars. And what I am about to give you is a much more reviewy type rap than Aragon got. Audio coming through, Kate?
Yep, we can hear you.
This rap review is about Red Rising by Pierce Brown. First, let's talk about characters. Lil Red with some fast hands, always coming with the fast plans, mining. H3 for the fusion, stuck, living in illusion, hell diver, so you know he dig with sorrow, pit viper make you not see tomorrow. That's my main man Darrow. Another just as shady, looking kinda small and pasty, knife stays sharp, tongue stays sharper, goblin, original howler, Mustang, girl with the sharp wit, careful, kill you with a sharp stick, packer, punch like a horse kick, but I still wanna smash it. Is this shit original? Boy, let me tell you so. This story make you gawk like my fire flow. Author brain so big, you already know. Concept and theory 4 days. Goddamn, bro. Caste system. Slaves in the skies. Romanesque nobles making meteors minds. Shit's better than Stephen King back when he was doing his lines. So good. Message of the story, something that I fuck with. Don't let the government hold ya hostage. Reds rebel, cause you know they gotta. So sick of being lambs to the slaughter. And each line written so nice. Prose flow like obsidian ice. Chills down your spine, fine as red wine. Author like a carver, splicing every line. All of this in a story about a lowly red. I missed the beat there, but it's okay, I fucked up. Anyways. All this in a story about a lowly red. Wife he loved stolen right from his bed. Elo, she got made hella dead. And now this rebellion about to spread. This has been Rap Reviews. I hate myself for fucking up on that last line. I hate myself for that.
No.
Okay, it's a live show. These things happen.
I didn't even notice. Until you said it.
I said something, yeah.
I was like, oh,
see, there I go. I should stop admitting fault. Mortals would never notice.
Don't admit fault.
Exactly.
So yeah,
You weren't anything from the cops.
Exactly.
We don't talk to the police.
No.
No.
You were speeding down that road. I don't know what you're talking about. You're in the driver's seat. No, I wasn't. No, I'm not.
You're like, no, you're in the driver's seat.
I don't drunk how you think I am.
Exactly.
However, what's it's. So yeah, that's Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Highly recommend checking it out if you like sci-fi. It's good as fuck. This has been the second rap review of the channel. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, mic check 1, 2. What it be, what it is, what it do. It's time for another rap review.
Another one.
Well, there'll be more. I'm just getting started.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully next time I don't fuck up and then announce my fuck up. Should have the book for Prose Police.
Red Rising?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I think she means I should have rapped about the one that I did for Prose Police. Yeah, I thought about doing that, but I wasn't able to finish the book in time. I finished the book yesterday, and I wouldn't want to write a rap review without having finished the book, because that way I'd have enough material to put together all of my bars. And so I just couldn't get it done. I couldn't write a rap about the book in a day and a half. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It took me 2 days to get that what I just put out written.
Yeah.
And then I had to practice it for like 2 days.
Yeah, she said no. Kate was right. She's talking about doing Red Rising for Prose Police.
Oh, okay. So I'm an asshole. My bad.
No.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I really love that book, and I've said this before many times. Because of Red Rising, I rewrote the first couple chapters of Garden of Lies. Yeah. It was a huge influence on me. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. We will add it to the docket. But at long last, it's time to get to the meat and potatoes of the night's discussion. Let's talk about diversity, writing your own representation, and Black people in fiction.
You are a genius.
All right, man. So you a Black author. What gives with that?
I'm Black. And then first I was Black. That came first. And then
I imagine that would be first. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens the other way. You never know.
He was like, I was there in the womb, pen in hand, notepad, scribbling it out. No pillow, no blanket. You want to go tonight?
We dropping bars still?
No, I think that's a Dave Chappelle reference. No. It's actually not Dave Chappelle. I'm mixing up my Black comedians. It's Kevin Hart. It's one of Kevin Hart's bits.
Nice.
Yeah.
It sounded like one of them.
Yeah. Kevin Hart, man. Oh God, Kevin Hart's a funny bastard.
Yes, he is. He is.
Him and Chappelle, man, two of the best comedians out there.
Yeah.
I really love those guys. Eddie Murphy was really fucking good too. Before he cleaned up. Yeah. Yeah, his acting. Yeah, I just think his humor got stale when he started trying to be PG.
Yeah, I get that. That is true. He was funny though.
Oh yeah. Like you could still go back. I can't remember what the special was called, but that special where he's wearing like the just a no shirt, an orange jacket, and some orange leather pants. I can tell by the smile, you know the one.
No, because I know, but I thought it was red.
It might be red. I'm partially colorblind, so it could be red.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, and for me, for a long time, colors that looked too close to each other, I got confused. So
yeah, that's part of my issue. Yep.
Yeah.
But anyways, to get back on track, Yeah, being a black fantasy author in a traditionally white dominated market. Yeah, man, tell us about your
Well,
journey,
yeah,
all that good
yeah.
stuff.
I'll start. So, as a kid, I loved fantasy. It's sci-fi is what got me reading. I
Mhm.
didn't distinguish the two though when I was a kid.
Understandable.
I wanted to. I loved going to different worlds. So I didn't read.
Same.
It was I was like I told you I was on hooked on phonics as a kid,
Hmm.
and so I picked up Kay Applegate's The Animorph series. I'm in the third grade from Scholastic Book Fair, and
Mhm.
that's what got me reading, despite everything that my parents tried prior to that. And then I read. I mean, so I didn't really go through the like I can read books because I wouldn't read them, but then I found that chapter book and I read the whole
Mhm.
thing. So um,
Yeah.
so that's what got me reading. I read all of the Animorphs books until a certain point because I think there's like 1,000 of them now.
Mhm.
Uh, I read Chronicles of Narnia, Lord of the Rings. A little bit older, I got Harry Potter, and Percy Jackson, all of that. And it dawned on me a little bit later, that there were no characters that looked like me, no leads that looked like me.
Mhm.
Um, it was always the best friend.
Mhm.
It was always the sidekick. Now, and mind you, I, my writing journey coincides with my acting journey. So,
Mhm.
I thought even in acting that all I really could play were the sidekicks or the background. So
Mhm.
both of those, it's hard for me to separate those two because they coincide with each other so much.
Hmm.
I had this mentality that I was relegated to the back,
Mhm.
Right.
um, and and it was strongly because widely because that was just the way that it was. I would have been portrayed in the
Mhm.
show. I related with the character, with the fantasy character, and things like that. And even in college, I was advised, by some of my professors that, if I ever wanted to be successful in acting, I should take up Shakespeare because it's the only place that I wouldn't the color of my skin wouldn't be um, taken into account, um, which sucked.
Yeah.
So that was the experience that I had. When I picked up this book, the Caleb Andrews Chronicles, I wanted to write a story where kids could see a character, kids that looked like me could see a character that looked like them. Um, so and I was very passionate about writing a just a. I was very passionate about not writing a black story. I wanted to write a story that had a black lead.
Yeah. And I
Uh,
think that's the preferable way to do it.
yes. So that's where this got into. I mean, where it was just a story because we have stories and it's not every story is a story about struggle. Not every story is a story about rising from the ashes or overcoming unimaginable odds or unlikely odds or whatever it's going to be. I just wanted to write a story um, like any other story that you can write that just so happened to have a black character, a black lead. Uh, so
And what's funny about that, just as a quick aside,
mm,
you ended up doing all those things you just described, but from the more typical angle of a protagonist. He still
yeah,
has these monstrous, epic fantasy struggles. It's just none of them, like you said, are the quintessential, stereotypical
yeah.
things that a black protagonist would deal with. They're
They're not after him
yeah,
because he's black.
right, exactly. He's not struggling because he's in the inner cities or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's what I wanted to do. And then as we started to develop the stories, um, yeah, one of the lines that was put in later that I actually really love is just at the end of the book when he's sitting next to, I won't give any spoilers away, but he's sitting next to Aiden at the river, and he's looking at the reflection, and he says, "He looks like me." I didn't realize how much. I didn't realize how much I needed that. Like I didn't realize how important that was to me. And it's one of those things that right there was what it was. I didn't realize what I was missing until I realized it. So that,
Yeah, that was a powerful line. I remember reading that, and I was like, it was an instant callback to the conversation we'd had when we were screening you for the show. And that's one of those things where authors get the chance to put their own voice through the narrator into the story, like something that is the author's perspective and experience, and it was seamlessly threaded like a thread going into a needle from the author's brain through the narrator's voice into the story. Very well done.
Oh, let me tell you, there was pushback from me putting that in there. I had several conversations with my editor about what I wanted to accomplish with this book, with book one, and my editor was actually the one who said, "Well, you need to put that in there," and I said, I got scared. I said, I don't know how people are gonna. It's a small line. It's one line, but I was like, I don't know how people are gonna take that. I'm all of a sudden. What's that?
I was just going to say, I think that their only reasonable way to take that is, with understanding. I think if someone got over that line, that would be incredibly small-minded.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I've gotten a little bit of pushback. Not a lot, and I'll tell that a little bit. But I was very frightened because I felt that, people would accuse me of they would accuse me of pandering, or and it isn't about that, and I am, but it's important. These are things that are important.
Well, and see, you're not, in my opinion, respectfully, you're not pandering, because there's a firm difference between pandering to an audience and speaking to an audience. Pandering is that bullshit Hillary did, where she's like, "Oh yeah, I got hot sauce in my purse. I carried it." Bitch, no, you fucking don't. I don't believe you had hot sauce in your life, let alone you carry it everywhere with you to add to your food.
Yeah.
Not pandering. No one believes it, and you look like a racist bitch, because she is. Now moving on to your line in the book. That's saying something that a lot of people in your experience, because this is a lived experience that you share with a lot of people. That's a line that can be resonated with. That's a line that as soon as the character says it, the person is like, yeah, it really do be like that. And especially because the book is written towards a younger adult audience, late teens and early adulthood, it's especially effective to just say it in the plain, bare open language when you're talking about people who are in that age group.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any problem with that. And yeah, it really does. This is a issue I have to acknowledge over on my side, is there are a subsection of people over on my side who would read that line and they'd be like, "Oh, SJW trash." And it's like, no, you stupid bitch. It's a discussion of lived experience, and that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do, is discuss lived experiences.
Yeah.
It's how we grow understanding.
It comes from a line of thinking that, any mention of race or culture is a negative thing, and not any mention is a negative thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got a comment recently. I got two comments recently that both of them. It's both of them I love because it shows how far I've come since the moment I've written that line. And the second one comes because it's exactly why I wrote this book. So the first one, I got one on an ad, a Facebook ad. The comment that was made, first of all, it wasn't, the initial comment wasn't even my comment. Someone saw my ad on Facebook and said, a black written book about a black boy, don't mind if I do. The commenter replied, why do you have to bring race into this? I was going to recommend this to my son or buy it for my son, but nope, I don't support separatism. So and I was like, I didn't even write that comment, but okay, that's fine. The thing is that I remember getting emotional and scared, like almost to the point of tears, when my editor said, you need to write that line.
Mm-hmm.
You need to put that in there. I remember saying, I don't know why I'm emotional. I don't know why I'm in tears right now, but I'm scared. And I was scared about getting responses like that. And I got that response, and my first thought was to laugh. Like I wasn't scared. I wasn't upset. I wasn't hurt. I was like, and honestly, I wasn't even mad. I was like, you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I felt more sad.
Yeah.
Not sad for me, but sad for her, because
Yeah.
she didn't get it. She didn't get
Right.
it.
Yep.
The second comment I got on an ad was from a mother in London. And she responded and said, we just finished the Percy Jackson series. And my son asked me, Mom, are there heroes like Percy who are black? I think he'll love this book.
Yeah.
And that one made me emotional. That's the reason why I did this.
Yeah.
The reason why I did this was so that those kids who love Percy Jackson, and I love Percy Jackson. I love his stuff. I love the Magnus Chase, series. I love how he writes. But for those kids who want a story just like that, who looks like them or who they can relate to, their hero.
Yeah.
I was happy to write that.
Yeah. I can imagine that'd be. I hope I get a comment like that someday. That's great, man.
Yeah.
And to call back to what I was talking about earlier, the job of storytellers in a society, you're doing it, man. That comment is proof positive that you're meeting that standard of being a good storyteller and making a positive impact with the stories you're telling. That's what it's all about. That is so fucking beautiful, man. It's great.
That's the reason I do this.
It's fucking great, man.
And not just black kids, for all kids. Not just black kids, for all kids, for anybody.
Absolutely.
My story. In the series, you'll find all types of people, and I've got story. Just another kid came up to me and just asked one day when I was reading the book out of school, and he said, can anyone be a writer? And I was like, yeah. He said, doesn't matter how old you are. I was like, no. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If you want to write a book. And he said, and he looked down, like it was recess time. I was like, you gotta go to recess. He looked down. He scuffed his foot, and he looked back up at me. He said, Mr. Wells, even me. And I was like, especially you.
Yeah.
So that's why you're absolutely right. It's the job of a storyteller. It's the job of an author. We do fantasy, yes, because we love other worlds. Yes, because we love to create characters. We love to go on those journeys, but to inspire people. That's why we write stories. So,
right. Yeah, and a healthy. What could be a healthier escape than something that inspires you?
Exactly.
It truly is. It's a service to humanity to be a good storyteller. You said something that brings up a question I wanted to get to, and that is, So you just said all kids need that to have that hero, and that leads me to the question of what your thoughts are, because there's a lot of to do about this in the writing community. Should white Europeans or people who don't have any interaction with other cultures write heroes and stories in other cultures? What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely, absolutely, they should. Um, they should write. I mean, and people might disagree with me. I don't care. But uh, yes, we should all be writing stories that look like. We should all be writing all characters. We should all be
Right.
including all characters in our
We
stories.
agree.
We should be writing stories that reflect the world around us. Now, the issue that I have with white, I'm not going to generalize ever, but with some white authors who write other people is that they're not interested in really writing other people's stories. They're interested in writing the way they think their story should be told. Yes. So I think that it's very important to listen. It's very important to ask,
Amen to that.
for help, and not just ask, but like really listen and really, when you write something, send it out to sensitivity readers and ask, what do you think about this, and listen to what they say. And I mean, don't get defensive.
Exactly.
Be
ready to take critique.
ready to take the critique. Yeah, and if it's something that you really love, send it to a few people. Get the majority. Hear what the majority says, but really be open to listen.
Yep.
But I strongly believe in my series. I've got black, white, Indian, Hispanic, um, Vietnamese, Chinese, and I try as much as I possibly can to be sure. Now, I've got a little bit of cheats because some of these characters only look that way, but they're from fantasy world. So
Right. Yeah.
But I do try as much as I can to get my sensitivity readers ask, what they have, and luckily I've got friends that look like each of those people. So, yeah.
And George R. R. Martin talked about how one of the best ways to create more diverse characters, not just in appearance, but being able to single them out individually as far as dialogue and be able to create fully realized people, is to exercise more empathy. So, do you think that if more authors strived towards practicing more empathy, that could take care of some of the issue?
Well, I would like to know. That's such a broad statement. Because what does that look like? What does that look like to exercise more empathy? I love that. It sounds nice, but what does that mean? What does that mean to you, Kate?
Well, I mean, to exercise more empathy, as in taking other people's feelings about, their representations and things like that into account, kind of the same principle of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So, presenting people as respectfully as possible and making sure that you're presenting people as realized people as opposed to just, ticking boxes for the sake of ticking boxes or creating caricatures.
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. It's the golden rule. It's the first thing we learn in kindergarten, is to do unto others as we do unto ourselves. Treat others like we want to be treated. I'm big. I mean, I'm a huge advocate for empathy. We definitely should be That's what when I say listen, we should be listening to each other wholeheartedly, and not come in with the with our agenda in mind. Sometimes we're listening we're listening for what we want to hear.
Yes.
Um,
Problem. Absolutely.
yeah, we're asking, um, you know, uh, do you want that pie with in hoping that they say no,
Right. Yeah.
you know, um, so I do agree. I think that it's very important. Um, I think that's the first step.
Mhm.
Is the first step is to treat everyone with empathy. The second step is to do the work.
Mhm.
Um,
And
uh,
when you say do the work, what do you think that looks like? Because when I think of doing the work to exercise proper empathy and writing other characters, I think speaking to people from that background, doing my history homework if I need to, finding out about their traditions so that I can represent their culture with accuracy. Because I think the most important aspect in being respectful of a culture is to be accurate,
yes.
especially with the important stuff. If it's an important tradition, you
Hmm.
better not fuck up the details
Hmm.
because the details are all important.
Yep.
So, yeah, you think that's a pretty solid
Yeah,
description?
you've hit everything that I would have said to do. You said that those are the things that I would have said to do. Speak with people, do the research if necessary, respect the culture, portray that culture with accuracy.
Yeah, and that's another place where people who aren't left of center sometimes hear that and they think, "Oh, here we go, another lecture." And it's like, no, 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 no.
Hmm.
Listen, I get it. It's a little insufferable when it comes from them, but there's a
Hmm.
nugget of wisdom there, and that is you need to be respectful when in Rome. And that's
Hmm.
ancient biblical wisdom when in Rome.
Yes. Hmm.
Do as they do because it's a matter of fucking respect.
Respect. It is respect.
And that's respect is a universal quality and thing that is held in esteem across every human culture. It looks different depending on the culture you're in, but the concept of respect is universal. So
Mm,
important.
100% agree. That is the quickest way to piss me off is to disrespect me.
Yeah.
I am such like it is so hard to make me mad.
Mhm.
Like I mean it is I don't get mad very easily. I might get irritated, but I don't really get mad. Um I get mad when me or someone else is disrespected.
Mhm.
Um don't like people deserve to be respected.
Yeah.
Just treat me like a person.
Mhm.
Right.
Um, and that's in the workplace, that's in the grocery store, that's like treat me like a person.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. Now, I have a side to branch off a little bit.
I want
I
what
have
you
a
said.
side question. What was that? Oh, the water.
Well, I said I want what you're having.
Oh, so this is just water, but this is mead.
No.
Yeah.
So, but the what I wanted to get to, I think this is a really interesting question, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. Do you think it's better to have an all-white cast, or would it be preferable to get the one token character in there? What do you think?
Neither. um,
I get they're both bad, but I'm saying like if an author is incapable of exercising empathy, but they still insist on writing their book, which would you rather see them do?
that's a tough question. An author that is incapable of portraying empathy has already lost me.
Fair.
They if they can't even do the simple task as to go and talk to people and create worlds in which they are. I would say I'm not even mad at having a token black person, but that author in particular, um, don't try.
Yeah.
Why even try? Um, and at that point, it's not about me as much as it is about them. It's like I would I would rather them just go ahead and stay in their white supremacy and
Yeah.
and then to try to bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Plus-
flipping that around. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate. You.
Well, I was just gonna say that plus that leans into other situations that you're going to see in their writing also, because they're not going to be able to write dialogue that doesn't sound like everyone's sounding the same, and other issues with that. So I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Now I want to flip that question around to another angle here. So let's take a story that exists entirely within one geographic region, and that's the reason the cast is ethnically monotone. What about that?
That is fair. I think that is a reason for it to be. However, there are areas that is used as an excuse often.
Yes.
Or particularly with geographic location and with error, time error, and there are a lot of places. There are other ethnicities. There, I mean, and as far, even when it comes to time, it's like, well, that wouldn't be true because it's 1860, and black people didn't exist in 1860.
It's like, but yeah, they did. It's like, what rock did you live under? Can you please crawl back under there?
There's
black people. Isn't that thing that the Marxists invented when Michael Jackson was born?
Yes.
Bring me my Mountain Dew and my dip.
Exactly. Well, it's there's a limit, but I think that in a lot of time period things and a lot of geographic locations, depending on what the story is, what is the story, but it's important to think to examine, why do I see this cast all white? Is it because the story calls for the story for it to be all white, or is it because this is what I'm comfortable with? And I think that's an important question to ask.
Yeah, I think any decent author should be asking themselves questions like that. Yeah, that's part of growing, not only as an author, but just as a person. To ask yourself tough questions and say, am I avoiding doing this thing because it's outside my comfort zone? And if the answer is yes, then that means you need to go do the thing. That's how you grow.
Yes, that's exactly basic way of growing.
Yep. And that's the tea for people on both sides of the argument with things that they would typically be squeamish about. You got to have the easy thing to do is to first discuss the thing that you're uncomfortable with and gather as much information about it, and then go experience it.
Yes.
And of course, there's such a thing as healthy boundaries, but that's really getting into a separate and not directly relevant tangent, because everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say things are good for your growth, and everyone get that.
Yes.
I'll say the one thing and not get on the tangent, but for a lot of people, healthy boundaries means staying in an echo chamber of their own opinion.
Yeah.
And that's so dangerous.
Mhm.
100%.
That's all.
Yes.
Don't build yourself an echo chamber. It's not good for
Exactly.
no one.
And
Just so and that's it. Yep.
in the long run, it will rot your brain. So
Facts. That the you could that applies across the entire sphere, and that includes what you read, being in an echo chamber of literature. If all you read is fast food, right to market stuff, rots your brain. It's like eating nothing but candy.
My mother is big on that. My mother is big on reading both sides, on reading, other things. My mom had me reading a worldview book when I was 9 years old.
Mm.
It was this big. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So I've got like the two thoughts I have is like, who did you think you were raising?
She had it. Hey, I mean, mom's intuition.
High expectations, man.
Hey,
high expectations. They're usually better for kids than bad. So
it's true.
Nothing wrong there.
And now I've gone back and I've asked her if she could find that book because I'd like to have it. I'd like to read it again. I don't remember anything that's in that book, but
it's back there in your subconscious
somewhere.
But that's the kind of woman my mom is. That's the reason why I think the way that I do. And
sounds like a good mom.
Yeah,
she's a great mom.
Oh man, we have an audience question. You mentioned in Warrior Angel, if a character having a metal arm, are there disabled characters in your book?
That is such a great question. So you're right. The character having a metal arm, that would make that character disabled. Unfortunately, that character is not one of the prominent characters in this book. And because of the characters that I do have and the lore and mythology that I'm working with at the moment, I do not have any disabled characters in the book. But that's not to say that there won't be. But that's a great question. So thank you so much for asking that and actually putting that on my radar a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, for the question.
Yes,
and that raises kind of a tangent discussion. So obviously, you're at least to some extent an own voice author. You're writing a Black protagonist. You yourself are Black. Do you think that the obsession with own voice authors, do you think that that's gotten a little bit out of hand? Do you think that it's a highly valuable trend? What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
I think that most things in 2022 have gotten out of hand.
You're not wrong.
There's value to own voice authors, yes. I think that there's a long history of other people telling other stories wrong.
Obviously, no argument can be made there.
Yeah. That being said, I don't think the issue is with the story. I think the issue is with the effort, and it goes right back to what I said. I believe that we should all be striving to tell these stories because they're human stories.
Yeah.
So, or even elvish stories, or
they're just
stories,
expanded for old wise humans.
Yeah. But we should all be striving to tell these stories. And I think own story is a cop out of saying, oh, I can't. That's the reason why I don't write any POC or LGBTQ or disabled stories, because we think, oh, well, I can't relate to that. And the fact that we feel like we have to relate to something to include it when we write about dragons.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to get your way out of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So,
I mean, because
oh, go ahead, Kate.
oh, well, I was just gonna say, I mean, because I think the intention was good, possibly when it started, but it's one of those things that, you know, all roads to hell are paved with good intentions, and eventually it just got out of hand because you had so many people who decided to jump on the bandwagon as an excuse to be casually cruel to people, you know, instead of actually being, you know, authentic about it.
Yes. I think I agree with you. I would have to know a little bit more of my history on that, because there are two ways to look at that. But I do think that I don't think that. Well, okay. Racism in and of itself is evil and cruel.
Absolutely.
That being said, it was a representation of the time, and I don't know. I guess that is something that I would have to look more at my history about, especially when I think about minstrel shows and blackface and how that rose, and because that's where it started. That's where it started, and it on one end. And my mentor, he would probably talk about this because we did have a conversation about this. It was, I mean, to tell stories, the black stories, you know, that is a huge thing, you know, but they couldn't have black people come up on the set because they couldn't mix that. And you know, that wasn't allowed. So yeah, I think there's more history to learn on my part.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everyone has more to learn.
Yeah.
Kate blows me so far out of the water on history and language. It's
my whole dream was basically to become a librarian, and I turned into a library instead. So
overshot that a little
bit. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, Caitlin, did you have any prepared questions or anywhere you want to steer the conversation?
Well, I had some questions that were more tethered to the book itself.
And I have a few of those too. So, if John, if you're cool with that, we'll move more towards that area.
I love talking about the book.
Absolutely. I expected you'd be fine with it. Pull my notes up here.
And the first one was from earlier. You said that you wanted to talk more about why you left the time period ambiguous.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a few reasons. One, I didn't want to age out. Now there are things that definitely are, as I believe it was Lauren who pointed out. You know, smartphones. All throughout the book, there are references even to the posters on his wall and the laptop. You know, but I wrote it. I wrote it.
You wrote it.
I wrote it.
You wrote it.
I wrote it.
I started writing this in 2008, and I intended for the book to take place in 2008. I started writing in college. I got distracted a lot, which is why it took me so long to finish. My second book did not take me that long to finish, but I intended it to be there. And then when I started editing and actually working towards publishing, actually saying, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to publish this."
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a hobby anymore.
Right.
I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be more to where we are now and grow from there. So I didn't know. I was like, well, I'll take out all the references to time and age, but I will say that now it is frozen. The book does happen. The book starts, in 2020, without COVID and all that stuff. That doesn't exist in that world, but it did. Yeah. That never happened
Right.
in the Caleb verse, but it does take place in 2020, and all the books after that will take place after that time.
In subsequent years. Now you mentioned the Caleb verse. So I did notice that you had set up somewhat of your own mythos as far as like your takes on some more ancient things, and some of those I wondered if they were subconscious decisions or if you did that deliberately, like some of the symbolism, the fact that his 16th birthday is when the thing is going to take place. I'm not going to give spoilers here, but the fact that 1 + 6 is 7, and numerologically speaking, that tethers to 7 being the number of perfection, meaning he was ready. Was that on purpose?
I love all of that. A lot of things that are in the book were done on purpose. A lot of the mythology, a lot of my takes on mythology, a lot of the symbolism that I have in there, it was done on purpose. And some of those things were just happy accidents.
Okay.
So, and I don't want to say which ones were happy accidents and which ones were on purpose.
Oh man!
So plays his cards close to his chest.
Well, I mean, so that way we can just play it up for the audience to be like, yes, that was on purpose. See?
Yes. All of it was on purpose.
I was doing it all along.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
On my level, please.
I'll say this. I write for the super fan. I write for the super fan. I write for those who, when they look at, and I told my editor, I said, I want to write for the second reader. So when the people who go back and they're reading it through a second time, they'll pick up on things that aren't there, that are there, that they wouldn't have noticed without having known the context of it all. So I definitely write for the superfan, who will look at that and scrutinize all of my words and say, "Yep, see,
Yeah.
I shit you not, and I respect you doing that so much, because I've always been a huge believer in stories that do that. Being much, frankly, that's one of the things that makes a good story. I set up things on page 1 that get paid off in book 3.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And it's fun. It's fun to uncover those things as well. Some of those things are there because you knew exactly what it was. And there are certain things where I will have conversations with I talk to my editor every single day. He's gone over and beyond what an editor should be doing. He's, my editor, my coach, my mentor. And I talk to him every single day. And we go back and I'll have read something. I said, hey, I said this here. And, we're working on book 3 right now. And I was like, and, that line aligns like 100% with what this says right here. He's like, so like I said, some things are accidents, but most of the times things are accidents. It baffles him. It's things that, it's things that he's like, you just wrote that, and you didn't know that you were going to tie that together. And that strongly comes just because the way that I see the story. the difference between he and I is that he sees story in bullet points, which I suck at. I see story in film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, live and in action. So
That's an interesting distinction to make. And Caitlin can speak to this. When I do my outlines, I do them in bullet point.
mm-hmm.
And when I actually write, that's when I start seeing it in film. I make my bullet points, and I know all the things that have to be in there, and then I completely freeball everything in between those. And that's the part, the freeballing while I'm sitting there and I'm typing. That's when I can see it in my head and everything that's going on.
I'm a firm believer in plotting. Don't get me wrong. I do plot. I do write my bullet points. I do that, but it's difficult for me. It is difficult for me because, for me, I see these scenes, and you can say something to me, and all of a sudden I'm triggered, and I have a scene in my head. The problem is that not every scene belongs in the book. And
common problem.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing is that, so I do have to outline. I have to outline, or else my book will take me 10 years, like the first book. And my first draft of the first book, I tried to put everything in there, and it wasn't good. If you could read the beta reader reviews of my first draft, you would laugh. And I laugh at myself because I literally tried to put everything in there, just because there was no there was no logic to it. This is cool.
Right. Yeah. You're like I can pants this, and this yeah. This will be what we used to call in the biz a Sound of Music piece of fiction, because it was literally all of the person's favorite things, and that was just all it was, and they were married to every last bit of it.
Oh man. Yeah. No, you gotta let go of some of those ideas.
Yeah. Oh man, but I have one last question, and then Zach, if you want to ask the rest of your questions. So since you have sort of established your own mythos, are you going to use it in other areas of your fiction, or is it just going to stay relegated to the Caleb verse, as you call it?
I likely will stay. Will stay. I'll stay in the Caleb verse as long as I have stories to tell in it. That's probably not true either. Because there's so many stories in the Caleb verse. I don't know. I've got other stories that I think probably wouldn't fit. Unless I have sci-fi stories eventually that I want to tell, but I right now I've got so many stories in this universe that I don't know. I could be in this universe for the next 20 years, and be fine with it. I'm working on a short right now that is that takes place before the Caleb Andrews Chronicles.
Oh yeah, you've set up a lot of prequel potential. You could do series of novels on what's happened before this one. For sure.
Yeah. So, I wish I had a more definitive answer for you, but I don't really know. Like I said, there's a lot that I can do in this universe, so I might be in it for a while.
Okay.
I know exactly how you feel. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. There's especially when you're writing, because all the background, all the stories. I mean, the story that we're writing, like you said, there's so much potential. I stupidly chose a story that spans all of time.
Those are the best stories.
I'm like,
If your story doesn't start at in the beginning, I don't want it.
yeah.
I feel like, yeah, it's like, is it even a story if it doesn't, run the same gamut as just all of time?
All of time. It's something that an argument that we have often when I get frustrated that my second book took me 8 months to finish rather than the 6 weeks that I wanted to do it in.
Yeah.
And Douglas, my editor, my mentor, he says, you wrote a story that spans all of time. What do you expect?
Right. Yeah.
What do you expect? So I'm working on it though. I mean, I'm getting faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's the key to doing this, is doing it more and doing it better, and eventually, you get faster, because it wasn't only, and I've been in this business for about 16 years, and I started out as a ghostwriter, and I didn't get to where I was able to, finish a manuscript in a couple of weeks to a month until just within the last few years, because it just, you have to find your rhythm.
Yeah, and with each book, I'm getting closer and closer to that rhythm. I'm able to see a little bit more. First book was a learning curve. Second book, we started it. I did a light outline, and got 100 pages in and realized I was writing the wrong story, and started over. So it was the second book is called The Heir of Ambrose. And I wasn't writing The Heir of Ambrose when I started, and we looked at the outline for that. It's 100% not the outline for the book that I wrote. But I started off with two factions of people that were supposed to be, fighting with each other. I called it the feud of the mercenary. And I got 100 pages into that, and I said, it's not about the feud. It's about Ambrose. This whole book is about Ambrose. I should be writing The Heir of Ambrose. So I went back and I rewrote the 100 pages and kept moving.
Yep. I had a similar experience with the book 3 outline, where I was like, I'm actually going to change this pivotal plot point, and that means everything downriver of it has to be changed.
Yep.
Now, more to the nitty gritty. This isn't really a question. This is just kind of a comment I wanted to make on a line in the book. Its ragged cloak was made of swirling ethereal shadow. I just wanted to comment on that line because it's so simple but so good. Swirling ethereal shadow. I instantly get this picture in my head of this villain standing there, a magic cloak made of darkness, strands and waves of darkness rippling off it and sinking back in. And it's just so succinct and punchy. Good job. I just got it.
That's exactly what I wanted you to see. So I love it when I hear a response and a description. That's exactly what I'm trying to portray. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I know as a writer, we love hearing that shit. So
yes, it's like I did it.
I did it.
You'd be like, take that, English teacher.
Yes.
Told you I could write goddamn I do it so good
I can do it.
with my words
And my blood and bone pokies.
and my blood and bone.
My blood and bone monkeys.
Yeah, that's another. That's way back in me and Caitlin's beginning of our content making. Anyway.
Callbacks.
And then this other thing I had here. So at one point you censor the phrase resting bitch face, and in the book you instead write resting witch face. It was said about a secretary at the building, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
And I wanted to know, is that being done because the book is YA, air quote, young adult, or is it more of a thematic and foreshadowing choice?
Yes. That one I can answer. That one I can answer. It when that line was written, I will say that I was unclear on who knows what. But I also was advised for this book, for that book, to and for the audience and all of that stuff to steer away from some of the swearing and all of that stuff. So I did censor the book. There were even the part, one of the pivotal moments in the book where he says, "Crap, it was shit." And
I thought so. It's crap. I'm not gonna lie to you. Crap felt a little awkward. I remember stumbling.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
So I had to be in mind with my audience, but and then and lore changed a little bit. But in book 2 and going forward, well, in book 1 you hear the term magic born. Magic born. They're born from magic. It's lore that we have the term, the species called the mercenator, which you'll learn a lot more in book 2.
I am a mercenator.
A mercenator, and basically, the mercenator. I mean, they would identify. I mean, if they were asked directly, it's never said in the book, but they would identify as witches and wizards. The druids and all of that stuff. They use magic, and it's a big deal for Caleb because Caleb is like, I understand how Nephilim use their powers. I understand where that comes from, but this doesn't make sense. So that's a big debate in book 2.
Interesting. I love when worlds go into the nitty gritty of their magic system and their lore, and fine details are carved out, and very well defined rules and intricacies get dug into. That's that good shit.
It's tough. That is world building. World building is hard.
Well, my friend, it just so happens that I've got a video playlist here on my channel on YouTube that you can go to for tips anytime.
Nice. I did that on purpose. It was a plug. Don't pay me later. No, world building is hard. But it's so much fun discovering those things too. So at some point, you set the ball in motion, and because of that, other things have to happen.
Yep.
You said this. If this is true, this has to be true. If this is true, this has to be true. So, stumbling across some of that stuff, it's been a lot of fun because it's informed me about stuff about my universe that I didn't even know was there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the logical process of thinking is filling in the gaps. Well, if A, then most certainly be, because you know the constraints of your world and how things would
Mhm.
naturally logically flow. And yeah, you can fill in a lot of gaps in your lore using that basic
Mhm.
technique right there.
Yep.
I certainly did. And one of the great things about that is it allows you to fearlessly just start writing.
Yeah.
Because as long as you have some core principles of your world, you don't need to know every little fucking detail. So as long as you have your core principles written out and you stick to
Mhm.
those, you will not paint yourself into a corner later, because you had
Absolutely.
a framework that you built from, and that's all you need. As long as you stay within the framework, or as long as any deviation from the framework is masterfully planned, because you can get away with it if you do it very well, but it has to be good.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
It has to
Yeah.
make logical sense. If you deviate
Mhm.
from it, it has to make logical sense. It can't just be because.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's one of the things to go to an anime. Just as a quick aside into
Mhm.
our friends over in the East, there's this anime Soul Eater,
Mhm.
and the finale, the main character is just one big fucking Mary Sue asshole Deus Ex Machina clusterfuck, and it's like, no, that ending makes zero goddamn sense.
It's a huge fu to the followers.
Yes, exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
stick to the rules that you created.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I think so many of the classic stories that our culture holds up are soft magic systems,
Hmm.
because it's so easy to stay inside your world's rules when you
Hmm.
design a soft magic system, because there's a lot more leeway. And so I would argue it's a smidge easier to world build when you have a soft magic system in place for a fantasy, but it does allow you more opportunities sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's the trade-off you got to make, is like, well, as a writer, do I want to take maybe the easier route on this and be able to get away with more ridiculous bullshit?
Hmm.
And that's a careful consideration that has to be made, because those decisions thematically and flavor wise affect your story from the root all the way to the leaf.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. And it's cool to just as well see what you can do with that. With soft magic systems, what is cool is that you can take one small thing, but the intrigue becomes, what are you going to do with that? How are you going to use that? Because there's so many different ways that you can use one little thing.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
always intrigued by that.
That's one of the fun things that I like about fantasy, is the
Mhm.
way that some people set up the systems in their world.
Hmm.
It really, it's almost like getting to look into the author's brain and seeing how they think logic works. Because by analyzing the way their system is set up, you can map out the thematic and symbolic ties that hold that person's logic together.
Yeah.
And you could use someone's novel to potentially decode their psychology if you were good enough. And I
Yeah.
think that's just fucking fascinating.
Yeah.
I love it. One of the things that I like, one of the stories that I like right now, just because of the world building, in my opinion, is Star Child, by
I'm
Leo
not familiar.
Petrarca. It's either Petrarca or Petracci. Um, I'm not Italian, so I don't know. But the intricacies of his world building, it's just I I love it. I love it. I recommend it. I recommend the story for the simple fact of the way that he's built his world and how he explains it from chapter 1.
Mhm.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love, like you said, I'm a sucker for good world building. Both world building is like, it's either the top or my second favorite thing as both a reader and a writer.
Yes.
Like, it's so
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. I love it as a reader. I think that I enjoyed writing book 2 more than I enjoyed writing book 1 because the world building rules were already set.
Mhm.
So then I could just play.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still learning things. The whole thing, you're learning things. But I mean, I wasn't teaching myself as well.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, I would argue that you're not done world building though,
No.
because I could see a
Are
lot
you
of.
really ever?
But I would argue that there might be a few places that if I just had to guess, I don't know for certain, but if I had to guess, I'd say as you write forward, you might find, oh, this is a whole blind spot that I hadn't noticed in my build so far.
Mhm.
I have to figure out what goes here.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet you're going to find a few of those.
I'm fairly certain I will, just because that's the nature of life.
Agreed.
So
And make no mistake, I found plenty of my own. So
yeah, no, that's the nature of life. That is, and even still, even with this, I wouldn't even attempt to say that I was done world building.
Yeah.
I love, but I love that I'm still learning it. But I also love that I get to play with it a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
That I get to, you know, have fun within that world, and in the world building as well.
Mhm.
Largely my second book. It's funny because largely my second book was that too. Just getting to really go buck wild and pedal to the metal adventure. That's what my second book is too. Man, I had a good time. Except for that one scene that I had to write, but we don't talk about that scene.
Oh. We don't talk about Bruno.
Oh my god. Hey, man, to talk about that, this is a kind of off topic, but well, actually, I mean, it's about characterization and stuff.
Yeah.
I realized that whole thing, basically the reason why they ostracized him was because he told the truth.
Yes. He told the truth, and people don't like to hear the truth, so then they blamed it on him.
Yeah.
Which is what you often do with a person. Well, I mean, in psychology, it's called the scapegoat.
Mhm.
So that's what you often do with that person is you ostracize them. They have to be the bad guy in order for this family, and it is an abusive relationship. And
Right.
it's an abusive family.
And then by the end of it, basically, he was supposed to apologize to everybody, and this was supposed to be okay. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
this is not okay. This
What
is
I
supposed
did-
to be a kids' movie.
I did like that they did that he felt like he had to apologize.
Mhm.
And almost all of them did say no.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Juliet the most said, I never had a problem with you.
Right.
But it is funny. I did love it. I saw a meme that said, people said, that of people saying she didn't apologize, or she didn't. All she did was say sorry. And all ethnic people from Black and Hispanic background said she talked about her problems. She acknowledged it.
Right.
Yeah, that is a thing over in that culture. Sure.
It's a huge thing where it's like it's a step forward, and I love that it was a story about family, and that
Mhm.
it's about the foundation and keeping family together, and not about the gift, which is what the antagonist was making the story about.
Mhm.
So yeah, I could. There's a whole psychological course that can be done on that show.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And just to go back, just to throw back to the beginning of that whole thing, they didn't like him because he told them the truth. Yeah, Galatians.
Second message.
You have a puppers.
I have two. I have two.
Wait,
They
What
both
kind
came
of
in. They're both pit bull mixes.
Oh
Rika,
yeah,
come
that's
here.
right. You mentioned them the last time
Come
we
here,
spoke.
come here.
That's right.
Come here, Rika, come here. Come here. She's come here, Rika.
She's like, now you'll be camera shy.
Come You. She's like, this is a trick. I got a French fry.
Oh.
No, I got a French fry. She's like, this is a trick. She's camera shy.
Oh.
Never met a dog who could distinguish a camera. That's amazing.
I don't know what's going on. I think she notices something. She never cares. She always comes and tries to get in the camera, and now she doesn't want
Interesting.
to.
I wonder if it's because she hears our voices coming through your headset and she's weirded out by it. She's like, "Where are these people?"
Probably that.
Strange disembodied voices.
She's got really sensitive hearing.
Oh.
She hears things, and like she'll pop her head up, and start barking.
I
and
know
stuff.
pit bulls are like that. Pit bulls seem to have that not only a keen sense of hearing, but they're very skittish about what they hear. Like everything draws their attention.
Mm-hmm.
She's very skittish.
Yeah.
She got scared by her own shadow yesterday. So.
Oh no.
Fucking love dogs.
I did want to say. So yes, book one is very censored. It does, as we get further into the series, it does change.
Nice.
As they get older, and my
Same.
yes. I expect that. My entry point right now, schools love to invite me to come into schools and read. So it's like I didn't want to cut my reader base off at the ankles.
Right.
Smart move.
I hope by book 4, I have a little bit more agency in what I can do.
Yeah.
That's because, man, I won't say it's censored because it's not, but that is much more tame compared to this, which is even much more
tame than 3.
Yeah. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean with as you go. Just the self-restraint gets harder, and you want to do more with your story. You want to explore how far you could push the envelope.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, we are going on 2:45 here quickly.
But
so
the discussion has been so good, though.
It has been a great discussion. Yeah. I'm just making the point that, all of us have other things that, eventually I have to piss. Eventually I have to eat.
Preferably not at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh, you.
Crazy John.
Right. Oh man. Well. Well, we like your flavor of crazy, so we will have to have you back.
I would love to come back.
Yes,
Thank you,
you are welcome to come back, especially, I might have to pick up. I might just be invested enough to pick up the second book.
Well, yeah.
That would be worth having you back for.
Do it.
The second one's out, right?
It comes out next week.
It comes out next week. There you go. So there you go.
Awesome.
The Last Angel Warrior by John Wells III. His sequel is coming out in a week. What were you about to say, John?
I'd say it's so much. I mean, I love the first book. Don't get me wrong. It's so much better.
I respect that. I really respect that. One author, one artist to another. You know, you can look, because when I wrote this, I was like, man, that's fucking top notch. And then I wrote this, and I was like, I could have done so much better.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm so happy. And I know that when I finish the third one, I'll look at this one and I'll say, yeah, I could have done better. But
we grow. We grow as authors.
Yeah,
and yet
good.
you only
We want to keep growing.
Exactly. And that's fun for readers too. As you know, if you're out there in the audience and you think, well, I shouldn't even start because I know it'll suck. No, because as long as it meets a certain base level of quality, put it out and let your readers watch you grow. A lot of readers still like following authors and seeing the progression.
Yeah. Well, it's like an instructor used to tell me all the time. Novels are like pancakes in children. You can always make more.
Yes. Yes.
I like where that guy's head was at.
Pancakes and
or waffles, but I like where it's at.
Yep.
So, John, why don't you tell them where they can find you, and we'll start wrapping this up.
Yo, okay. You can find me. You can find me all over the place. You can find me on Facebook at the Caleb Andrews Chronicles. www.facebook.com/the Caleb Andrews Chronicles. You can find me on Instagram at j.waymanwells. You can find me on TikTok at John Wells the author. Please follow me on TikTok. I'm trying to grow my base. And I do post. I do do content. I'm fairly new to the TikTok game, but you can find me. My books are on Amazon. Just look up The Last Angel Warrior or The Heir of Ambrose. You'll find them. And I think that's everything.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, John, man, it's been a damn good conversation. You've been a good sport, and we've had a good time. Of course, you can find me and Kate's stuff in the link tree down in the description. Please do check out John. As I said, finished his book. It's worth a read.
It's amazing.
And I imagine younger audiences would like it a lot. And I will be doing a review of it on my channel.
Same.
I imagine you will as well. So, yeah. Go check out his work. Get done with book 1 in time for the sequel release in a month. And thank you all so much for being here.
Binge read that shit.
This has been the
Genius
segment. And all of you, man, take care of yourselves. Be well. And we're out of here.